about solving proportions part 1. درسنا اليوم هو عبارة عن حل التناسب الجزء الأول. Solving proportions. Today's goal is how to solve proportions. What is the meaning of proportion? ما معنى proportion؟ التناسب. Proportion is when you have two ratios are equivalent. نسبتين متساويتين. For example, 1 over 2 is equal to 2 over 4 is equal to 3 over 6, etc. We can have a proportion with an unknown. ممكن يكون عندنا تناسب مع مجهول. مثلا x over 6 equals 3 over 9. We have a proportion here because we have a ratio كسر يساوي كسر آخر. Another ratio. So it means that this is called proportion. To solve proportion, we have a technique which is called cross multiplication. For example, you are asked to solve each proportion and round your answer to the nearest 100. If you look carefully here at exercise number 1, simply you can know that this fraction will not be equal to that fraction unless if you understand that 4 will be multiplied by 2, you are getting the 8. So by conclusion, you should multiply by 2 to get the x, which is in our case is 18. So our x is 18 by mental math. We know that the ratios are equal if the numerators and the denominators have the same multiple. If you multiply the numerator by 2, then the denominator is multiplied by 2. إذا ممكن نحصل على المجهول مع بملاحظة إنه إذا نضرب الأربعة باثنين نحصل 8، إذا لازم نضرب المقام وهو 9 في 2 عشان نحصل 18. This is common sense. But what if the numbers are more difficult, fractions, or you cannot have the number that you are multiplying by to get the numerator or the denominator? إذا مش عارف الرقم, what will you do? Simply you should cross multiply. ضرب تقاطعي. And the cross multiplication means the product of extremes equals the product of the means. حاصل ضرب الطرفين يساوي حاصل ضرب الوسطين. So simply you are multiplying the 4 by x, which is 4 times x, 4x, and 8 times 9. So 4x is equal to 72. And it ends with a simple one-step equation. صار عندنا معادلة بسيطة تنحل بخطوة واحدة. إذن we can divide both sides by 4, and this will end up with 72 divided by 4, which is 18. And we have this conclusion before we did it using the cross multiplication. احنا حصلنا على هذا الاستنتاج من أول. هذا سؤال سهل. What if you have an expression? A proportion including an expression. هذا التعبير موجود في المقام in the denominator. So we will apply the same technique. We will multiply 14 times this expression, and I will put the expression between brackets because the 14 is not only multiplied by x nor multiplied only by 9. It is multiplied by the whole expression. And this will equal to 4 multiplied by 36. And now we have an equation with a grouping symbol. عندنا صار معادلة فيها أقواس. إذن أول نتخلص من الأقواس. So we have to get rid of the bracket. 14 times x, 14x, we are using distributive property. نوزع الضرب على الجمع. So 14 times x, 14x, and then 14 times 9. We multiply 14 times 9, which is 126. And we will multiply 7 times 36, which is 252. And now we are going to solve this equation. You can use the technique by transferring the 126 to the other side, and it was positive, so it turns to negative. Or if you want, as you have learned before, we can subtract 126 from both sides. Subtracting 126 means using subtraction equality property of equality. It ends up with 14x equals to subtract 252 minus 126. We have 126. And then we will divide both sides by 14. نقسم الطرفين على 14. So we'll divide by 14 and x is 9. This is the solution. Let's check here. You can check by replacing the x here with 9. And let's take 7 over 9 plus 9. This is the number that we have replaced equals 14 over 36. Is it true or not? Let's try to evaluate. The left-hand side is 7 over 18 equals 14 over 36. As you see here, this 14 is the multiple of 7. When you multiply the 7 by 2, you get 14. And 18 as well is a multiple of, so 36 is a multiple of 18. You multiply 18 by 2 to get the 36. So الإجابة صحيحة. The answer is correct. And the checking was proving that. Okay, very good. Now, according to your understanding, let's check. Solve, and if necessary, round to the nearest hundredth. Have a look. Try to have the answer. Let's wait for a minute. Okay, let's check what is the answer. You have two approaches. You can do it mentally because you can notice that the 2 can reach the 4 by multiplying by 4. So you can multiply the 3 by 4 and this equals, or this should equal to n minus 4. So you can say that the n minus 4 is equal to 4 times 3. And n minus 4 is 12. And we are solving by adding the 4 to both sides, or you can, as we get used to, transfer to this side. So it's 12 plus 4, which is 16. So our answer should be A. Okay. If you use the cross multiplication, let's have the other approach, which is cross multiplication, you should have the same answer. We have n minus 4 over 8 equals 3 over 2. Cross multiply. So 2 times what? 2 times this expression. So 2 will be multiplied by the whole expression equals to the 3 multiplied by the 8. I'm putting them between brackets because I'm avoiding writing the cross as multiplication. أنا بتجنب أكتب الإكس as ضرب علامة ضرب عشان ما نتلخبط فيها مع الفاريبلز. And then we will use distributive property. نوزع الضرب على الجمع. 2 times n 2 ضرب n 2 n. 2 ضرب ناقص 4 2 times negative 4 is negative 8 and 3 times 8 is 24. And then we will use our techniques to solve the one step or two steps equation. So it's 2n is 24. Moving the negative 8 becomes positive 8. 2n is 24 plus 8 is 32. Divide both sides by 2. قسمة الطرفين على نفس الرقم. Then n here 16. And this is what we expected from the beginning. Great. Now we are going to solve proportions with two missing quantities. Now we have here the variable appears in both sides, in both ratios. Does it affect our technique? Actually, it does not. We will use the same technique exactly. We will not change our policy. Now, some approaches will tell you that I will multiply here by 30. I will multiply here by 30 to get rid of the fraction because when we cancel 30 over 10, it will be 3. And then you will use distributive property. But actually, I don't prefer this method. I don't prefer this approach. I prefer to use the cross multiplication. Now, you can say that this side, 15 times the expression 6a plus 2. You can start with this or start with the other one. It will not make no difference at all. ما راح تفرق معنا. And then it is equal to 10 times the whole expression that is shown in the numerator. And we will use the techniques that we have studied before. Let's do it together. 15 times 6a. So we'll multiply 15 times 6, 90a. Plus 15 times 2, 30 equals 10 times 4a, 40a, and 10 times 7, which is 70. Actually, we have the variable a appears in both sides. مثل ملاحظين إنه ال a موجودة على الطرفين. It is appearing here and it is here. So either you can subtract from both sides to cancel a from this side, make it in 2 steps, or you can shift it from side to side, changing the sign. We get used to that. Now 90a minus 4a is 50a, 40a, sorry. And we will do the same thing again for the other one, which is minus 30, because we will shift all the numbers to the other side. We want the variables on one side, the numbers on the other side. المتغير في جهة والأرقام في جهة أخرى. 70 ناقص 30 40. And then we need to get rid of the 50, since 50 is multiplied by a. قلنا قبل عكس الضرب قسمة. The inverse of multiplication is division. So I will divide both sides by 50. And a is 40 over 50. Simplify by dividing by 10. Cancel the zeros. So a is 4 over 5, or in decimal it is 0.8. Okay, great. Repeating and solving another question with variable b now. We will use cross multiply. We can start by this one as well. It will not make any difference. ما راح تفرق. Do it like this. And 3 multiplied by the whole expression. If I don't put any mark between anything between the number and the bracket, that means it is multiplication. So this means multiplication and this means multiplication as well. And then I will start distributing. 7 times 18, 126, plus 7 times b, 7b, equals 3 times 14 is 42, and 3 times negative b is negative 3b. Simply, we can find that 7b and negative 3b are the same terms, combining like terms. So we can shift the minus 3b to the other side. It becomes 7b plus 3b. Remember, moving from one side to the other side, changing the sign, because it is the same technique as adding 3b to both sides to cancel the 3b from the right-hand side and move it to the left-hand side. It will end up with the same conclusion, equals to, and I will take also the 126 to the other side. So it is 42 minus 126. Remember, this was positive. So I'm subtracting 126 from both sides. Now it becomes 10b is 42 minus 126, which is negative 84. And we divide both sides by 10. And this will be negative 8.4. We don't need to round since it is rounded already. Great. Oh, I have done now this, but I didn't check. You can check by replacing the b instead of the b here and there, and you should have the correct proportion. And now let's check how can we solve this proportion, and if necessary to round the nearest hundredth. Let's check this proportion. We will do the same procedure. Cross multiplication. Remember, you are multiplying by the whole expression 2x minus 5. And now use the distributive property. We will keep this side the same, and we will multiply 12 by 2, 24x minus 12 by 5 is 60. Taking the 24x to the other side, so it's 18x minus 24x is equal to minus 60. Subtracting like terms, 18 minus 24 is negative 6x. It's negative 60. And the last step is dividing both sides by negative 6, and x will be positive 10. So the answer definitely is positive 10, which is D. Yes, positive. Negative over negative is positive. Yes, it's D. Perfect. Now let's move to the real life application here. We have Ali. Ali's car used 10 liters of gasoline. So I will write here 10 liters. I'm summarizing what is given here. In 6 hours, he is using 10 liters in 6 hours. The question is, if he continues on this rate, إذا استمر على نفس المعدل, how many liters of gasoline? كم لتر gasoline? So X liters, because I don't know here number of liters, so I will assume it's X or A or B. Will the car use in 20 hours? I put hours under hours. And then I can write my proportion. The proportion can be written as 10 over X is equal to 6 over 20 in order. We can write it this way. Another way to write the proportion is 10 over 6 is equal to X over 20. The reciprocal also is acceptable. We can find the reciprocal of this and find the reciprocal of that. So X over 10 is 20 over 6. And then we can use any of them to solve the proportion by doing cross multiplication. ضرب التقاطعي. حاصل ضرب الطرفين يساوي حاصل ضرب الوسطين. Product of means equals the product of extremes. So we will do it this way. 6 times x is 10 times 20. 6 times x is 200. Dividing both sides by 6, and x is 200 over 6. If you use the calculator to find 200 over 6, it will give you a repeated number, 3333 forever. Now the question can ask you to round your answer to the nearest whole number or to the nearest digit or to the nearest hundred or whatever. Now let's find out the way to do that. We know that this is our whole number, and then this is called the 10th أجزاء من 10, and this is called 100th الأجزاء من 100. If you want to round to the nearest hundredth, then you have to look to the right of this digit. If it is 5 or more, then it can give the 100th 1. If not, keep it as it is. So since 3 is less than 5, then our x rounded, it's not required, but I'm just practicing it with you, 33.33. Similarly, if you have to round this number, the same number, to the nearest whole number, we will go to the whole number, which is this one, and we will check the 3. If it is 5 or more, then it becomes 34, but it's not, so it will be only 33. And of course, we are looking for liters, so it's 33 liters. And with that, we have discussed how to solve simple proportions and apply one real-life example. We will continue next lesson with part 2, and have a nice day. Goodbye.